The first thing we would like to show you is the entire procedure, from initial contact to the point of escorting the subject to your vehicle. First, with a compliant subject. Observe the high level of control, which is maintained throughout the entire procedure.
You're under arrest. Turn around, put your hands behind your back. Spread your legs. Lean forward. Put your hands behind your back. Now. Put your hand behind your back.
Note the ease at which the subject is brought to the ground. Note also how a high level of control is maintained, even with a subject that is not compliant. Now let's take a look at that procedure again.
Lean forward. Put your hands behind your back. Now. Put your hand behind your back.
When approaching a subject, care must be taken so as to avoid an attack. Consider the area within 6 feet of a subject as being the danger zone. Let's number the danger zone number 1, being the area directly in front of the subject. This is a very dangerous direction from which to approach a subject. Let's move to the side of the subject and call that number 2. This is better than number 1, but still leaves a subject with many attack options. Let's proceed to the area directly behind the subject and call it number 3. This also is better than number 1, however it leaves many attack options as well. The best angle to approach a subject is from 2.5, this being the area halfway between number 2 and number 3. This is a weak angle for the subject and offers the greatest advantage for the officer. Observe how Mr. O'Domhnaill enters with his arm guarding against a potential strike from the subject. Note also how the officer's knee is kept facing toward the subject as his entry is made. This knee is then placed directly behind the back of the subject's knee joint, deterring a possible kick or other overt action. The guarding hand can be used to defend against a variety of striking attacks as shown here. Now let's take a look at that procedure again. The knee forward entry protects against a kick to the side of the officer's knee. A kick to the side of the knee has a much greater chance of incapacitating the joint than does a kick from the front. Once the officer's knee has made contact with the back of the subject's knee, it can then be used to control the subject's balance, as well as continuing to guard against a kicking attack as shown. Hand placement is extremely important. Once proper OCCS hand placement is obtained, it doesn't change throughout the entire handcuffing procedure. Proper hand placement is one of the means by which superior control is achieved and maintained. If the subject is compliant and follows your commands, he makes it that much easier for you to obtain hand placement as is shown. However, if the subject is not compliant and refuses to follow your orders, OCCS hand placement can still be easily obtained very quickly. Observe the speed at which hand placement is achieved. Now let's look at this procedure in slow motion. Let's watch that again in slow motion. Now let's break down the steps in obtaining hand placement. First, grab the subject's fingers as shown. Then turn the subject's fingers inward, facing the subject's palm toward you, and ultimately facing the palm outward. Continuing to hold the fingers with your outside hand, take your inside hand and grab the back side of the subject's hand. This is your control hand. You should not let go of this grip. This is where your continuous control will come from. Finally, allow your hand, which is controlling the fingers, to slide around so that you are not grabbing the inside as opposed to the outside of the subject's fingers. There are some important points to remember regarding hand placement. Number 1. Be sure that you have control of the blade of the subject's hand. The blade is the portion of the hand shown here. Also, your thumb and point fingers should be wrapped around the wrist joint as demonstrated here. And once again, you should be grabbing the inside of the subject's fingers with your outside hand. When you have obtained proper hand placement, it will look as though you are holding a baseball bat. If a subject is compliant and follows your orders, there is no need to lock the joint. Simply obtain proper hand placement and apply restraints. However, if the subject refuses to follow your instructions and will not submit to handcuffing position, further action must be taken. Observe how Mr. O'Domhnaill enters, obtains proper hand placement, and locks the joints. Now, let's break down the components of the joint lock. Twist the hand inward, creating pressure in the wrist joint as shown. Twist and push the fingers inward and upward at the same time you are twisting the hand inward. Now, add the inward movement of your hips to complete the joint lock. When executing the joint lock, take the lock to the threshold point. This is a point at which the subject is feeling some pain, is up on his toes, but is not being injured by the lock. If the subject attempts to flee while you are executing the joint lock, simply grab the subject's fingers with both of your hands and pull on the subject's hands as you push his fingers under and upward. If the subject's hand is much larger than yours, this is not a problem. Simply drop your control hand down slightly, grabbing the subject's little finger. Twist the little finger around and up. Maintain proper hand placement on the rest of the fingers with your other hand.